The guardian of the green veil. People called the forest ancient. Lyra had always called it silent. Her village rested, where the trees unfurled like vast green arms, and each morning the mist gathered there, thick as a secret that refused to finish its sentence. The elders swore the woods once spoke to those who truly listened. Now they said, the voices only stirred when the wind was kind. Lyra, stubborn and curious, waited at the border for a kindness that never came. She wasn't afraid, she was fascinated. The forest seemed to breathe, the canopy rippled like a sleeping ocean, shadows shifted even when the air stood still. She told no one. In the village, old stories had become an embarrassment you kept in a drawer. Nature has moods, her mother said, grinding herbs. Respect them and keep your distance. Respect thinned into neglect. The villagers cut deeper. Fields leapt forward. The river shrank from its own banks. Lyra went with the woodcutters, telling herself it was harmless. The forest is vast, she reasoned. It will not miss a few trees, but each strike of her axe left a tender sting inside her ribs, as if the air itself had flinched. One evening, when the sky burned to gold and then to embers, a sound brushed past her ear. Not quite wind, not quite voice, a breath, a syllable, her name. Lyra. The axe trembled in her hand. The woods stood drenched in shadow. Just my imagination, she lied to her thundering pulse. She did not sleep. Before dawn, the mist curled around her ankles like a cat that knew too much. The forest waited, darker than she had ever seen it. She lit a lantern and walked. The nearer she drew, the quieter the world became. No crickets, no frogs, not even the rude chatter of morning birds, only the soft creak of branches in windless air. Her mother's warnings crowded her mind. Do not wander beyond the trees. Curiosity walked first. Lyra followed. The moment her boots met the forest floor, the air grew thick and old. Wet moss, sweet rot, the ghost of rain. Her lantern threw a nervous circle over trunks older than memory. Why do you hurt us? Said the voice. Lyra's breath snagged. Who's there? Too loud. The dark swallowed it whole. Why do you break what nurtures you? She turned in a circle, lantern shaking, heart a drum. I don't understand, she began, then knew that she did. Fallen trees flashed in her mind. The thin, muddy river. Fields that should have been green and weren't. I didn't mean to harm you. The ground shivered. Roots loosened and slid like snakes, coiling her ankles. Leaves rattled without wind. She dropped the lantern. The light blinked out. Panic clawed up her throat. Please, stop. The forest did not. It showed her smoke, axes, rivers choking with silt. It showed her herself, not swinging the blade, but watching, saying nothing. She fell to her knees. I'm sorry, she sobbed. Let me make it right. I'll change. Please, give me a chance. Everything went still. The silence hummed like a held note. Then a glow wove between the trunks. A deer stepped into it, white as moonlight, eyes calm and knowing. It bowed. Where its hooves pressed the soil, green blades pushed up, bright and new. Mercy can heal what anger has torn, said the voice. Not from the deer, not from the air, from everywhere at once. Lyra pressed a hand to her chest. She could not tell if she was forgiven. She only knew she had been seen. The roots uncoiled. Light threaded down through the canopy like shy dawn. Spent, Lyra lay on the cool ground, the wild metronome of her heart easing. I will change, she whispered into the earth. I promise. Morning spilled through the leaves when she woke. The deer was gone. The lantern lay cold beside her. The forest felt different now. Watchful, not hostile. At the edge of the trees, she turned back. The crowns stirred with a faint ripple, and she could almost swear she heard it again. Her name, not a warning, but a trust. The village was yawning awake when Lyra returned, dew in her hair, soil on her dress, dreamlight in her eyes. People stared. No one dared ask. She carried something in her gaze the village had no word for, older than fear, softer than sorrow. Days slipped forward. Lyra's hands no longer reached for the axe. She gathered windfall for firewood. She planted saplings where the fields had gone bald. She sat beside the river for hours, not idle, listening. The villagers whispered, "She's gone strange." The forest took her mind, but when they watched her water, the seedlings, patient, careful, a hush worked its way into their throats. Each evening she returned to the border where light thinned into shade. She knelt and spoke into the dim. Promises, apologies, prayers. The wind often rose to meet her voice. Beneath everything, she began to hear a rhythm. Water under stone. The slow heartbeat of roots knotted deep. The forest was alive. Now she belonged to its song. Seasons turned. Spring rinsed into summer. Flowers returned to turned to bare places. The river cleared, fish flashing like thrown silver. Birds nested low again. The village noticed. Crops stood taller, soil darkened with kindness. The elders nodded without words. Gratitude kept like the old stories in a drawer. Children trailed her and asked why she spoke to trees. She pressed seeds into their small palms. "Each one is a promise," she said. "Care for it, and it will remember your kindness." They giggled until green broke the soil. Then they grew quiet. Years slipped by like water over stone. Silver threaded her hair. Her eyes kept their listening calm. When storms threatened or crops faltered, people came. Lyra never claimed wisdom. "Listen to what the earth asks," she'd say. "It tells you, if you are gentle enough to hear." On the first frost, the forest called again. Mist rolled low. The trees wore 100 shades of ember and rust. Lyra woke before the sun with a weight in her chest, not fear, but knowing. She wrapped her cloak and walked. At the edge of the village, she paused. The path into the trees waited for her as it had that first dawn. She did not bring a lantern. She did not need light. The forest knew her now. Leaves parted softly as she passed. The world felt tender, as if one loud step might break it. Deep in the old heart, roots like walls, silence like a chapel. She reached the clearing where she had once been bound, and where the deer had stood. It was changed. Gold and green hung in the air like a pool you could breathe. Lyra knelt. "I've done what I could," she whispered. "I tried to mend what we broke. But I am only one." For a while there was only the leaf rush high above. Then a wind gathered, cool, fragrant. It moved around her like a sigh. Voices, many and one, rose within it. You listened, you learned. What was wounded remembers kindness. Tears blurred the world. She pressed her palms to the warm soil. "Thank you," she breathed. "If I could stay, I would." The wind answered, light as a hand. "Then stay." Not command, invitation. The air brightened. Dawn folded around her. The ache left her bones. Her breath loosened into the hum beneath the roots. She closed her eyes and let go. When the sun finally climbed the hills, the village woke to a different quiet. They called her name among the trunks, but the forest held its patience. No footprints, no cloak, no struggle, only a patch of grass in the clearing glowing a little greener than the rest, and a scatter of tender shoots pushing up, as if they had heard a story and wanted to grow toward it. They stacked a small ring of stones there, not grave, but memory. Children brought flowers. The elders bowed their heads. Sometimes, when wind braided itself through the branches, it carried her name, soft, melodic, leaf to leaf. Time rolled on. New faces learned old paths. Travelers told of a forest that did not die. Trees that stretched taller each year. Rivers that never ran thin. At twilight, some swore they saw a moving light among the trunks, a lantern pouring its glow without a hand. Others swore they saw a woman whose hair shone like mist and whose eyes were calm as rain, tending roots and whispering to the green. The village gave her a name, the Guardian of the Green Veil. Not a myth, but a truth the wind was willing to repeat. They taught their children her words, "Be gentle, for the forest remembers." And it did. Every care, every small mercy. The voice that had once been sorrow became a low, steady singing in every leaf. When storms gathered and thunder marched along the ridge, the villagers stood at the border and listened. Behind the rain's roar, they could hear the old song, endless, forgiving. Lyra's song. If you stand there long enough, quiet where it matters most, you will hear her too, a whisper close to your ear. Mercy can heal what anger has torn. The forest forgives, but never forgets. The forest lives. The story breathes, and so does Lyra, forever among the whispering trees. Whispering